All right, everybody, welcome back to the #1 television program in the history of the entire universe. I am Brian Lee Durfee, author of The Forgetting Moon, The Blackest Heart, and The Lonesome Crown. All three books published by Simon & Schuster's Saga Press. Today I'm going to be reviewing the horror novel When the Wind Blows by John Saul. This book came out in 1981. This is the fifth John Saul book I have read and reviewed on this channel. I will say I liked the previous four books that I've read and reviewed. I'm going to tell you, I usually don't give negative reviews. And this one's not going to be real that negative. It's just going to be kind of like a ho-hum review. But anyway, let's talk about the cover first, because you know I love graphic design and cover illustration. And I will tell you, the cover is not helping this book. I mean, if you want to judge a book by its cover, this is about what you're going to get inside. The cover basically is as bland and PG-13 rated as the whole story. Now, I do have all of the John Saul books. We'll pan through the library. I think yeah. That's my John Saul book collection. Like I said, I've got all of them, but I've only read and reviewed 5 of them, so we're slowly working our way through all of them. Like I said, the first 4 I really quite liked. This one, I gotta shrug my shoulders. When the Wind Blows came out in 1981. This is, even in 1981, they were doing better book covers than this. This one, like I said, man, we're starting off weak just with the cover. So it starts in 1910. So the book, Amberton, Colorado. Usually when I read books and something like Amberton, Colorado comes up, I'll Google it just to see if it's a real place. I do this a lot with thriller novels or historical fiction, and I read about the place. I just didn't even, for some reason, I didn't even give a fuck. I didn't care if it was real or not. I didn't care if Amberton was a real place or not. I'm assuming it's not. I'm assuming it's like based off of like, you know, I don't know where in Colorado. Some one of those places in Colorado where there's mining towns. When there's probably a lot of places in Colorado with mining towns. So 1910, the mining town of Amberton, Colorado. The wind is blowing very fast. Wind is a theme in this whole thing. There's a mining disaster, not because of the wind, but the wind is blowing whilst the mining disaster is happening. Everyone dies in the mining disaster. At the same time of this mining disaster, because of the wind blowing. Gosh, I don't know why I was just startled there. Something fell off my mic stand. Anyway, like I have a mic stand. Okay, anyway, we'll edit a lot of this out. Okay, so there's at the same time as the mining disaster, there's a woman in the nearby town of Amberton, Colorado, who gives birth. She gives birth to a baby at the same time as the mining disaster. But as she's giving birth, she has this premonition that there's been a disaster at the mine. Her husband works at the mine. She believes he's dead. She's like, oh my gosh, I just saw through, the wind blowing from the mine over to here, I kind of sense that my husband's just dead. That's the opening prologue. Then we jump to 1980. This was published in 1981. Makes sense that the story is about 1980. Elliot Lyons is our character, and he dies in the same mine. In the same exact mine, he dies. But just in what's the math on that? 1910 to 1980, that should be easy to figure out. I can't do it. Anyway, that's got to be something like 12,000 years later. The Elliot Lyons, he dies in the same mines. His daughter, Christy, is 9 years old. She is left as an orphan because her mother died previously. And so now we've got this orphan girl. And this woman named Diana wants to adopt this young girl, but her mother, Edna, won't let her adopt. Because everything is tied to the mine and the mining disasters. And, because when the wind blows, the children will cry or the cradle will rock. I don't know what that is. The children must die. When the wind blows, the children must die. Yeah, that's the nursery rhyme. I think that's it. When the wind blows, the children must die. Yes, kids sing that like crazy. as on the playgrounds of every American elementary school. Anyway, the fact that the children that are crying because the wind is blowing, they're waiting. The children are waiting and waiting. For centuries they wait for someone to hear their cries before they die. Now 9-year-old Christy, the orphan girl, has come to live in the house on the hill. There's always a house on the hill. The house where no children have lived for 50 years. Oh, the mysteries. And we'll get into some of the things I liked and some of the things I didn't like about this in a minute. She will sleep. Christy, the young orphan girl, will sleep in an old-fashioned nursery on the 3rd floor. And her terrors will start to begin. And this is where the horror comes in. Now, this is one of the things I liked about the story was it was very Stephen King-esque, and then it was about a small town with a lot of small town characters from the 80s. You know, we get the 80s nostalgia. We get a lot of that stuff going on. There's a lot of good things happening in this book. However, why I just kind of didn't give it a big score, why I'm not going to give it a big score, probably one of my least favorite books I've read so far this year, if not in the last couple of years, it's just bland. It's PG-13 rated horror. It's nothing like I remember. And maybe it's because I read this book sandwiched in between Robert McCammon's Mine, which was bloody and rated R and pretty gruesome. And also, I read it in between Mine and then Bentley Little's The Vanishing, which was also bloody and R-rated and very gruesome. And then in the middle of that, I read this When the Wind Blows, which was just like, there was no horror in it whatsoever that I could detect. It was just kind of a passively bland horror novel. Or maybe it's not even a horror novel. I mean, I know that's what John Saul is known for. But I wasn't horrified. There's nothing in here that was too gross for me. Or maybe I skipped over it. Maybe I missed it. Maybe there's some pages missing out of my copy. I don't know. But anyway, I'm going to give this, because I did enjoy just living in this universe in Amberton, Colorado, which may or may not exist. I did enjoy living in this universe with these characters, and it was very small town-esque, Stephen King small town-esque. I liked that part of it, but beyond that, I wasn't like terrified. I wasn't like, oh my God, or anything. It was a 5 out of 10. That's a 5 out of 10. Very, very average novel. But I think this is just like, you know, you saw how many John Saul novels were over there in my collection. Probably like 30. You know, there's going to be a handful that I'm not going to like. Let's be honest. I mean, Stephen King here, I've got 90 Stephen King novels. There's a handful I don't like, and he's my favorite writer. So anyway, 5 out of 10 for When the Wind Blows by John Saul.